Hi, and welcome to the 16th video in our C# for Beginners tutorial series. In these next couple videos, we're going to be looking at different types of collections in C#. Our first collection that we're going to be looking at is going to be arrays. We've seen these before in PowerShell, but we're going to be taking a look at them in C#. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to actually initialize an array. We're going to be looking at two different ways to create arrays. And different things that we can do with them, like change the values that are in the array, how to display values in an array, and also how to iterate through them or walk through them or loop through them using different types of for loops, and also a new type of loop that we haven't seen before, which is mostly really just strictly used with arrays and different types of collections that we will be seeing. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started. So let's first go ahead and first lay out some rules of the arrays. So arrays are defined as a type, and you can only have elements of that type in an array. So if you create an array of type integer, you can only put in values that are integers. String arrays can only contain strings. Just kind of like that idea. And also there are generic type of arrays where you can hold some custom objects that you create. We're going to be taking a look at that a little bit later on when we get into object-oriented programming. So that's a little bit more of an advanced topic. So let's actually go ahead and let's create our first array here. So we're going to do int open and close square bracket. And we're going to create an array of numbers. And we are actually just going to create a new int. And now we're going to specify the length of the array that we want. So we're actually just going to be creating a small array here today. We're going to be creating an array of length 5. So let's go ahead and let's populate some numbers in here. So let's do numbers 0 equals 1, numbers 1 equals 2, numbers 2 equals 3, numbers 3 equals 4, numbers 4 equals 5. So here we've actually populated our 5 spots. Now you're going to notice I stopped at 4 and not 5, and that's because we always start at a 0-based index in C#. So you always want to start at 0, and we're going to be going up to 4, which is our length of 5. Now if we wanted to display our numbers here, so we can do console.writeLine, and we can do numbers, and then we're going to do the index that we want to display. So if we do 1 here, we are going to display the second item in our array. So if we actually just launch that here, we are going to see number 2. And then if we actually go ahead and we can actually change here. So let's do numbers 1 equals 1,000. And we will see that now we get 1,000. So arrays are completely mutable. You can actually change what is inside of them. So that is always a complete option. You can also see the length of an array here. So if we, instead of specifying a index, so let's do numbers dot length. And we can actually see here that we get the length of 5, which makes sense because we actually strictly assigned it to 5. Now there are methods. You're going to see methods here of numbers dot, and you can actually append. We will be seeing that a little bit later. These aren't actually, so they will return a value, but they will return something that is not a array. So if you just created another integer array and then made it equal to numbers.append, and then another integer, you're not going to get anything back. You're going to get an error message saying that it cannot be converted without casting it because it is a IEnumerable and not a array. And same thing if we just do a numbers append here, and let's do the number 10, we will actually still get, so let's display the length before the append and after the append here, just to show you guys. We always have a length of 5, and that is because this actually just returns something, and it actually does not modify the actual array itself, but will actually return a new sequence with that ends with element. So it appends a value to the end of the sequence. So it would append number 10 to it, but it actually changes it from an array to an IEnumerable because arrays are of fixed length. You cannot remove an item and you cannot add items to arrays in C# like you could in PowerShell. So let's go ahead and let's create an array of a different fashion. So this method is super great for things like inventory or any type of situation where you want the user or the program to fill up the array because you don't necessarily know what might go in there. So like an inventory system or maybe like a record or history, some type of thing like that. But again, it's going to be a fixed length. So an inventory system would be good because you might limit the player to have an inventory of 10 items per se. So an array definitely works. All right, and let's go ahead and let's create another array here. And this is going to be where maybe you want to offer a list of choices to a user. It's going to be a set list of choices. You already know all the items. This way is kind of long. You can easily do that in one line here. So if we create an array of strings, we're going to call it choices. Now, what most people would be opted to do is create the string square bracket choices, and then square bracket, and then put my choices in here. So let's do hello, math, and then exit. Now this is actually going to give us a red squiggly. To create an array in C#, it'll actually be notated by curly brackets. So that is a little different. It's going to be string, square bracket, choices, equals, and then you're going to have a pair of curly brackets and your items within that. And then if we do console.writeLine choices at item 1, now I'm going to give you a few seconds here to kind of think of what that would give us. If you guessed math, you were correct. So as we know, index 1 is actually the second item in our list because we're starting at 0. So 0 is hello, 1 is math, and then 2 would be exit. And then if we do choices dot length here, we will see our length is 3, which is perfect. And then what we can do now is we can actually iterate through the different options in our array because we have our length. So we already know how many items are in there. So if we actually think back at some of our loops that we've seen for loops, we've seen while loops and do while loops. What would make the most sense to use here? It would probably be a for loop because we already know how many items we have. So here we could use a for loop, and we're going to loop through the numbers array here. So let's do int I equals 0 because we know that we always start at index 0. And we're going to do I is equal, or is I is less than so it's going to keep going as long as I is less than numbers dot length, and our step is going to be I++, so we're going to be incrementing I by 1 every iteration. And let's do console.writeLine numbers I, so I will be this index here. So if we actually go ahead and we run this, we will see we get the length of 3. That's fine because that's right here. And then we start iterating through. So we get 1, 1000 because we still have that 1000 here, 3, 4, and 5. So we've actually iterated through that entire array with this for loop. Now there is actually a different way to iterate through arrays in C#, which might be very similar to how we would remember doing it in PowerShell. So we actually have a for each option here. So here we have for each, and let's loop through the choices array here. So let's do string option in choices, and let's do console.writeLine option. So here if we go here, this should, oh, there you go. It must have just took a little bit of time. So here we have our length. of our choices array, and then we have our first loop of numbers here, which is our for loop, and then we have our for each loop, which loops through all the different options in choices. So here we've seen how to iterate through our different options. We've also seen how to actually use a for loop or a for each loop depending on what you wanted to use. Both of them are completely valid. Now, we're going to be taking a look at some other types of arrays. We're going to be taking a look at some multi-dimensional arrays. What might be better is the for option might be a little bit easier to read or a little bit easier to think of sometimes. So we're going to be taking a look at that in the next video. We're going to be taking a look at multi-dimensional arrays, which are a little bit more complex than just flat arrays. But that should cover pretty much arrays. So we've seen how to generate arrays, how to create them, how to display options from them, how to change values in them, how to see the length, and how to iterate through them and walk through those arrays. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know down below in the comments. If you guys have any questions that you guys would like to see a video on, please let me know in the comment section down below as well. If it's something that I think a lot of people can benefit, I will definitely be making a video on it. If it's something a little bit more specific, I will answer you directly. Also, be sure to not forget to click on that subscribe button and that like button. And also, make sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.